Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the August Technical Committee meeting. Members, please turn your cameras on during the roll call and also for the voting items. This meeting is being recorded. If anyone should experience difficulties during the meeting, please send a message in the chat box. At this time, Rebecca will start the roll call to determine member participation. Rebecca?
Good morning. City of Annapolis, Anne Arundel County, Baltimore City, Baltimore County,
Here.
Carroll County,
Here.
thank you, Harford County,
Here.
Howard County,
Here.
Queen Anne's County,
Here.
MDOT,
Here.
MDE,
Here.
MDP,
Here for Brooksville.
thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca.
MDOT, I'm sorry, two more.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. MDOT MTA,
Here.
thank you. And MDOT SHA? Okay, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Rebecca. Our first item is approval of the minutes from the July Technical Committee meeting. Have members had a chance to review the minutes? If so, can I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes?
Harford County will move to approve the July 26 minutes.
Thank you, Sam. Harford County.
Carroll County will second.
Thank you, Carroll County. Claire from Carroll County. We will now vote on approval of the minutes. When your name is read, please indicate aye or nay. Rebecca, can you read down the list?
Sure. Annapolis, Anne Arundel County, Baltimore City,
Present.
thank you. Baltimore County,
Aye.
Carroll County,
Aye.
Harford County,
Aye.
Howard County,
Aye.
Queen Anne's County,
Aye.
and MDOT.
Aye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. The July minutes are approved. We will now consider sending Resolution 27-6 to the BRTB for approval. The resolution is to add funding to the 2026-2029 and 2027 to 2030 TIPS for two MDOT SHA projects in Anne Arundel County. Nicole Condell will introduce the resolution. Nicole?
Hi, good morning, everyone. So in this resolution 27-6, SHA is requesting changes to two projects. The West East Express Trail Eastern Extension Project is an amendment that adds a new project to the TIP. The second amendment requests additional funding for the Anne Arundel County Trails, Spurs, and Connectors project. Both projects are proposed to be exempt from conformity analysis, and these determinations are being coordinated with ICG via email. And now I'll turn over to Alex Brunn, who will present the project details.
Thanks, Nicole. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so for this first project, the amendment purpose is to add the construction phase and additional funding for the Anne Arundel County Trails, Spurs, and Connectors earmark into the FY 26-29 and 27-30 TIPS. And this construction funding specifically is being used for the BWI Trail to Cochrane Middle School project. Next slide. So this project will extend the trail network. It completes a connection between BWI Trail to Cochrane Middle School and the B&A Trail to Severna Park High School. And it includes a 10-foot wide trail, crosswalks, signage and markings, a pedestrian bridge or boardwalk, culvert, stormwater management, and landscaping. Next slide. So like we mentioned, the amendment will add construction phase and funding. It's using the Highway Infrastructure Program Community Project Funding, specifically the congressionally directed spending, carbon reduction program funding, and a 20% county match. And you can see the breakdown below. Construction for this project is expected to begin in early 2027 and be completed in summer 28. And the design funding was previously programmed into the FY 26-29 TIP. Next slide. So the next project is the West East Express Trail Extension. Next slide, please. Thank you. And this, similar to the previous project, this will add the project and construction funding for the West East Express Trail Eastern Extension in the FY 26 and 29 and FY 27-2030 TIPs. Next slide. So the scope of this project includes a 10-foot wide shared use path along Lowe's Access Road between Calvert Street and Taylor Avenue. And it will also extend the Poplar Trail to create a continuous active transportation corridor linking downtown Annapolis with the Pearl Town Center. Next slide, please. So this amendment will add project and construction funding using also Highway Infrastructure Program Community Project funding with a 20% county match. And construction for this project is anticipated to begin this fall and be completed by the end of 2028. Next slide. Thanks, that's it. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Alexandra.
Thank you.
I now ask for a member to move for approval of Resolution 27-6 and then a second.
Howard County moves.
Thank you, David from Howard County.
And Queen Anne's County will second.
Thank you, Steve from Queen Anne's. Are there any questions or comments? We now ask if any members of the public have any questions or comments.
There are no questions or comments in the chat box.
Thank you, Zach. We will now move to vote on sending Resolution 27-6 to the BRTB. When your name is read, please indicate aye or nay. Rebecca, can you read down the list, please?
Sure. Annapolis, Anne Arundel County, Baltimore City.
Aye.
Thank you. Baltimore County.
Aye.
Thank you. Carroll County,
Aye.
Harford County,
Aye.
Howard County,
Aye.
and Queen Anne's County,
Aye.
and MDOT.
Aye.
Thanks again.
Thank you. The resolution has passed. We will now move on to consider Resolution 27-7 to the BRTB for approval. The resolution is to adopt targets for 3 measures in the CMAQ performance plans. Nicole Condell will introduce the resolution. Nicole?
Hi, everyone. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, great. All right. So following is an overview of 2 federally required reports proposed for adoption in Resolution 27-7 regarding CMAQ performance management. For a bit of a refresher, national goals and transportation performance requirements were established in MAP 21 and the subsequent FAST Act. So to achieve these goals and requirements, 3 performance measure rules were adopted regarding safety, asset condition, and performance. Each of these rulemakings outlines a variety of specific performance areas and associated measures for which 2- and 4-year targets must be set. The 2 performance areas in focus today are traffic congestion and on-road mobile source emissions, which together form the CMAQ program. The Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Program, or CMAQ, targets funding for projects which contribute to achieving 3 performance measures: PHED, or annual hours of peak hour excessive delay; percent non-SOV, which is referencing the portion of non-single occupancy vehicles on the roads; and total emissions reductions by CMAQ funded projects. MPOs that serve a large transportation management area that are also located within a NACS EPA set non-attainment or maintenance area must develop a CMAQ performance plan setting 2- and 4-year targets. This plan must be updated biennially, showing progress on meeting the targets and updating targets as needed. And this must be included as part of the state biennial performance report. So seeing as BRTB includes a TMA population of over 1 million, as well as being classified as an ozone non-attainment area, here we have CMAQ requirements that apply. The second performance period ended toward the beginning of this year, and as such, there are 2 plans due to Federal Highway in October as part of the state update. One outlining the progress toward period 2 targets, and the other setting targets looking forward for period 3. The MPO plans are due to MDOT towards the end of this month to be incorporated into that state plan. And so I'm going to walk us through the progress and proposed targets for each of the measures outlined in the draft plans. And before we dig into each of these measures, we have a refresher here on the BRTB MPO planning area and the associated urbanized areas. Each of the measures is associated with a different area, and that will be outlined as we walk through each measure. The key areas to note are the broader BRTB MPO planning area, the Baltimore urbanized area, and the Aberdeen urbanized area. All right, so first up, we have the total emissions reduction targets. Outlined here are the 2- and 4-year period 2 targets, performance, and the proposed targets for period 3. These targets apply to the broader MPO planning area. For this measure, the performance must meet or be greater than the target. All period 2 targets were met except the 4-year VOC target, with a target of 13.6 kilograms in reductions as the target, but only 9.77 kilograms were achieved. A handful of factors may have contributed to the failure to meet that 4-year target, which includes updates to the EPA modeling program, the Motor Vehicles Emission Simulator MOVES, which occurred after the targets were set. This model is used by MDOT as part of a suite of tools to estimate emissions benefits. A second factor is that the Maryland Transit Administration anticipated to receive 70 battery electric buses per year to replace diesel buses during the performance period, but only 20 were received. And additionally, through the performance period, the efficiency of clean diesel buses has increased, which actually is making the difference in benefits from replacing clean diesel buses with electric batteries is a smaller difference in benefits. Based on the estimated emissions anticipated from upcoming CMAQ funded projects, the proposed targets for period 3 between 2 and 4 year are fairly close. So for NOx, a 2-year target for period 3 of 3.44 kilograms is proposed, with a 4-year target of 3.447. For VOC, a 2-year target of 0.05 is proposed, with a 4-year target of 0.057. These specific projects slated for CMAQ funding, which these estimated targets are based on, will be outlined at the end of the presentation. And for comparison here, we have the target setting methods, broadly speaking, for the 2 plans for period 2 and as well as for period 3. So back in period 2, the emissions reductions targets proposed by MDOT were adopted by BRTB, and it is proposed that the MDOT targets, as shown on the previous slide, also be adopted for period 3. And additionally, the results of period 2 performance to see how well we measured up to the targets were calculated through the Federal Highway CMAQ public access system. Next up, we have the targets and performance for peak hour excessive delay, which are set and measured for the Baltimore and Aberdeen urban areas separately. This is based on federal requirements, which apply to urbanized areas that meet a population size threshold. For this measure, performance must be equal to or lower than the target. In Baltimore, the 2-year target was achieved, whereas the 4-year target was not. And the reverse is true for Aberdeen, where the 2-year target was not achieved and the 4-year target was met. Factors that may have contributed to the increases in Baltimore peak hour excessive delay include increases in travel post-pandemic and also the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge. Additionally, over the performance period, updated urban area boundaries were finalized based on the 2020 census, which adjusted the geographic areas included in the performance assessment. Based on projections from historic data, the proposed Baltimore 2 and 4-year targets for period 3 are 23.3 and 27.6 hours. And the 2 and 4-year proposed targets for Aberdeen are 7.4 and 7.6 hours. And for comparison again here are the target setting methods outlined for what was done in period 2 and what is proposed for period 3. In period 2, the peak hour excessive delay targets were developed in coordination with MDOT SHA based on trends and projections from prior years. And so for period 3, the targets that are proposed were also developed based on trends and projection estimates in coordination with MDOT SHA. And the history of the performance throughout period 2 were calculated through the RIDIS database. For a more detailed look at the prior year's performance and the target setting methods, this graph shows the forecasted performance for period 3 for the Baltimore urban area and shows that the targets in the circled areas on the later bars were set to align with this forecast. And for the Aberdeen urban area, past trends vary year by year, as opposed to a steady incline. And therefore, the forecasted 2-year target was adjusted to be upward to the highest point that was reached in performance period 2, and the 4-year target was set slightly higher to account for forecasted rising trends overall. Moving on to percent non-SOV, performance is also measured per urban area. Performance must be higher than or meeting the target in order to be achieved. In both urban areas, percent non-SOV increased over period 2 and met the 2- and 4-year targets. This increase is likely due to teleworking and hybrid work schedules, which could have been a factor to greater percent of non-SOV travel. Based on projections from the past performance, the proposed 2- and 4-year targets for period 3 are 34% and 35% in Baltimore. And in Aberdeen, these two targets are proposed to be 25% and 26%. And again here, regarding methodology, period 2 targets were developed in coordination with M.SHA based on projections from prior years. And the proposed period 3 targets, as shown on the previous slide, were also developed based on trends and projection estimates in coordination with SHA. The results of performance in period 2 were calculated through US Census American Community Survey 5-year data. And for a closer look at non-SOV target setting methods, here we have the previous and forecasted performance for Baltimore. Targets were set below forecasted value due to uncertainty around the continued increase in work from home policies, as well as uncertainty about the funding priorities in the new transportation bill. However, long term, there's still a goal to see higher levels of non-SOV travel, and there is that trend, historic trend of moving upward. So the 4-year target was set slightly higher than the 2-year target. And similarly, for the Aberdeen area, targets were set below as well forecasted values due to uncertainty around the continued increase in work from home, as well as uncertainty about funding priorities. However, again, long term, there seems to be a trend in moving upward and seeing higher levels of non-SOV travel. So the 4-year target was again set higher than the 2-year target. All right, so rounding out the presentation, we have a list of the anticipated CMAQ projects for period 3, which were provided by MDOT and shown here. This includes bus replacement and ride sharing programs. And the anticipated emissions reductions are listed here for both projects. And of note, while the bus replacement project will not address the congestion reduction measures, the ride-sharing project will contribute to congestion reductions. And that is all I have for you all today on the target setting and period 2 performance. Happy to answer questions.
You can go ahead.
Okay, hi Nicole. Just have a technical question. How did you get the number for the non-SOV percentage number? You got it from census or you got it from survey?
Let me go right back. Non-SOV, that was from census data.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Nicole? All right, hearing none, we now ask if for a member to move and approve Resolution 27-20 and then a second.
Baltimore City moves to approve.
Thank you, Sean from Baltimore City.
And Queen Anne's County will second.
Thank you, Steve from Queen Anne's. Are there any questions from any members of the public in the chat box? Hearing none, we will vote on sending Resolution 27-7 to the BRTB. Where your name is read, please indicate aye or nay. Rebecca?
Annapolis, Anne Arundel County, Baltimore City,
Aye.
Baltimore County,
Aye.
Carroll County,
Aye.
Harford County,
Aye.
Howard County,
Aye.
Queen Anne's County,
Aye.
and MDOT.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca. The resolution has passed. We will now move on to hear a presentation regarding crash data analytics telematics review project. I welcome Ms. Nicole Waldheim, Celia Escobar, and Mike Wallace to share the progress on their findings from the report.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. We are excited to be here today to present on the findings and the recommendations from the BMC Data Telematics Project. I'm Nicole Waldheim from Farren Peers. I serve as the principal on this project, and I'm joined by Celia, who is the project manager, and Mike, who is our National Technology Solutions Leader. Next slide, Celia. So over the next 20 minutes, we're going to provide you with an overview of the project. I know some of you have been involved so far to date, and thank you for that. But for those who haven't, we'll give you a little bit of context for what we did. We'll tell you what we heard from all of you, all the local governments in the region related to your data needs, specifically your safety data needs. And then we'll give you an overview of how we scored data vendors based on your needs. And then the big reveal at the end is we will look at the top 5 vendors that really match with the safety data priorities in the region. Next slide, Celia. And then you can move to the next one as well. So again, for those who haven't been involved to date, the purpose of this project was really focused on understanding how telematics data can support safety planning and evaluation across the region. As you all know, there's several data vendors that have probably approached you, and they all do different things and have different purposes, so it can be really hard to parse through that. And so our job was to really take a look at all the vendors and again, have to figure out how they matched with the needs that you have in this region. So we did approach this in 3 steps. Is first, we listened and learned from all of you in the local governments in the regions, as well as 3 agencies outside of the region, to really understand what are the needs and opportunities here with telematics data. So we did this through a local government survey, and then we did interviews with 3 agencies, and Celia will talk to you about the outcomes of that in a minute. The second thing we did is we did a broad scan of telematics data providers and their tools. So I'll show you a little bit later, but we looked at 34 different vendors to try to understand what they have available and how it really relates to the things that are needed in the Baltimore region. And then the third piece of this, once we did our homework and did an inventory of all the telematics vendors, is we developed recommendations. And we just completed a steering committee meeting 2 weeks ago to educate local governments in the region on the selected vendors and their capabilities. Next slide, Celia. So we are wrapping up this project. We will be finalizing the final report this month and next month, and then we're also going to be presenting the same information to the safety subcommittee next month. So I'm going to pass it over to Celia, and she's going to talk about the research that we completed to really understand the key needs related to telematics data for the region.
Great. Thank you, Nicole. Good morning, everybody. So as Nicole mentioned, we had two separate touch points that did allow us to hear from all of our member jurisdictions. The first one being that questionnaire that she mentioned circulating earlier this year, followed up with a steering committee meeting this past April to kind of add more context to those responses. A third one not shown here were those conversations with the external jurisdictions that we had to learn more about how they're dealing with their current telematics data vendors. So we're lucky enough to hear from all the jurisdictions and from a nice variety of different departments, including the police department, traffic engineering, public works. And so we got a nice variety or breadth of information to work with. And so what we heard from this questionnaire was a couple different themes. The first one was being what you all expressed you needed from data. So when asked what safety issues you want to solve that make that data access is difficult to support with, we found that near miss events, distraction, and hard acceleration were responded as the hardest to address due to insufficient data. When asked about what type of analysts that you all have at your dispense to be able to do the safety analysis, most respondents said that they have internal experts who analyze the data. And then as for barriers to data integration, a few of these were data literacy challenges, decision-making silos, and then having access to data across different departments. And then finally, we wanted to learn more about what you all prioritized in selecting a vendor. And the responses to that was, of course, having high quality data with integrity, the ease of use of it, and then the ability to incorporate it into all of the dashboards that are available to you all. And these were ranked as the highest and most important when considering a vendor. And so we wanted to learn a little bit more from jurisdictions that are already working with data vendors across the country. So we spoke to Washington DOT, Missouri DOT, and Calvert County. And so Washington DOT predominantly uses Cambridge Mobile Telematics now. They previously used Michelin Mobility Intelligence, and they really focus on law enforcement initiatives through speeding hotspots, and it is now funded through a line item in their state funding. So there was some great lessons learned with Washington DOT. With Missouri, they also use Cambridge Mobile Telematics, and they particularly do distracted driving campaigns. So they use the hotspots of distracted driving to identify where to place media campaigns, target their law enforcement deployment, as well as which high schools they should focus on for educational programs. So really focusing on distraction. And finally, Calvert County, they use Cidian, which does not provide telematics data with their license, but rather a dashboard to display collision data that you all already have access to. But it's a great user-friendly way to look at the data from an analysis and summary perspective to do before and after studies, informing countermeasures, and supporting grant applications. And finally, we followed up all of these things that we heard at our steering committee in April with a few just different jurisdictions to learn a little bit about what we might have missed, to add some context to different areas that we learned about. So in addition to the other topics that we wanted to get more data for, speed data was also voiced as another area that we'd like to have access to, as well as, again, that near miss data. And then 2 and 3 are kind of hand in hand. The internal analysts, while they also do have a capacity constraints and they don't have the bandwidth to take on a lot of additional safety analysis in addition to their current workflows. And this does serve as number 3, the barrier to that integration. So we kept this in mind when looking at different vendors. And then finally, for the vendor priorities, sample size and representativeness was also voiced as something that was important to look at with these different vendors and making sure that they are encompassing the community in the BMC region. And I'll pass it back to Nicole to talk a little bit about more the vendor inventory and the scoring aspect of it.
Yeah, thanks, Celia. So basically, we took all of the information that Celia just shared that we learned from all of you, and then we completed a really thorough review of over 30 data vendors, and then we scored and prioritized them. So I'm going to go through both of those efforts with you now. So if you move to the next slide. So the first thing that we did was we completed an inventory of 34 data vendors. We really wanted to baseline the data, the services, the capabilities that they all offer. We really needed to get a holistic view of each one of them. So this slide and the next shows all of the information that we captured for each vendor. So you can go back to the first one. I'll go through each of these one at a time. But This information exists in an Excel document. We did just share it with our steering committee for this project last week, so it is available if you're interested. But basically, what we documented for all 34 is the type of data that the vendor offers, the type of data that they collect, just a short description of who the vendor is and what they do, how you all as users can access the data, how the vendor shares the data out. Is it at a segment level? Is it at an intersection level? Things like that. And then how often is the data actually updated? Is it minute by minute? Is it weekly? Is it something else? And then Sally, if you move to the next slide, we also documented a lot of other important things is, how well does the data that's collected actually represent and cover the BMC region? If the data are collected directly from the source, so from the phone or from the vehicle, or if AI is actually used to model the data results. We looked at what modes the data covers. So is it just vehicles or bikes and peds and others included in that? We looked at whether the data can be easily uploaded as a dashboard, because that's really important to have that visual component. How well the data can be used by a local government, right? How effective is it for you? And then also any other notes were captured. So again, all of this baseline information on the 34 different vendors exists in a really nice Excel document. And then if you move to the next slide, so once we had all of this information in place, we were able to then really effectively rank all 34 vendors. And we did it based on two criteria. So one is we wanted to understand how technically strong a vendor actually was, just period, kind of outside of BMC needs. Do they have good data? Are they easy to use? Do they integrate well with other data sets? Do they have good coverage? So that was kind of the first priority. And then the second priority is we really wanted to understand how well the vendor actually met the identified needs that you all told us were really important to having this data available to you in the region. So again, those are the two lenses that we looked at this through. So Sally, if you move to the next slide, this is the criteria that we use to evaluate and score the quality of the vendor. So that first kind of goal we're looking to achieve. So we wanted to make sure, again, as we were looking at each vendor and their quality, are their data accurate, reliable, and validated? Are they usable by all of you? Do their capabilities support transportation safety specific applications? So this data does a lot of things, but we really wanted to make sure that it focused efforts on transportation safety. Are the data able to integrate with other dashboards that already exist? Are the data representative of your local government area and the region as a whole? And then are the data easy to deploy and maintain? So again, we prioritized all the vendors through this lens and came up with a score for each one. And then here is, again, we scored each vendor based on how well they matched what you all told us your needs are for telematics data. So for this, we looked at, can the data provide you information on speed and unsafe behaviors, things like distraction? So that was one of the most important criteria. Two, we really wanted to understand, does this data actually add any value beyond the data you already have, right? You have a very robust crash database and visualizations are already available. So can the data add value beyond what's already in place? So that's also how we scored it. We wanted to understand if the data can support before and after analysis, which helps in selecting the right countermeasures. We wanted to understand if the data can proactively address locations based on near miss. So not just where historical crashes are occurring, but where crashes have the potential to occur. And then if the data can help all of you, understand bicycle and pedestrian safety challenges and issues a little bit more. So after we did that, and Sally, if you move to the next slide, so from there, all 34 vendors were assigned a score based on one, their quality, and two, their BMC need. And honestly, the two scores across all 35 were pretty fairly well matched, as you can see on the slide here. This is just a snippet of the scoring. It shows how 9 of the vendors scored. But really, this provides a data-driven and transparent process to help us make the most informed recommendations for the top 5. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike, and he's going to walk through the 5 that we selected kind of based on this prioritization.
Thanks, Nicole. Yeah, so there's 3 different categories that we put the top 5 in, and I should actually say that there's a little bit of weighting also towards passively collected data, right? So that you don't have to put devices in the field since that's expensive and you have to maintain them. So there, we did focus on those that were more passively collected, either leveraging data that you already had, or from cell phones or vehicles, or those types of things. So the 5 that we looked at fit into these 3 basic categories. That there's driver behavior, that there's information from the smartphone or the plug-in device into the vehicle, and that's Cambridge Telematics. The actual driver opts in. There's also roadway operations that look at connected vehicles and signal timing and those types of things that are operational and the influence of safety. Those are Iteris and INRIX. There's also broad planning that includes some of those data sets that I've already mentioned, but also additional data like which paths did they take, where's their home location, those congestion measures like you talked about in some of the prior presentations. So a little bit more broad planning in addition to just safety. So as I go through each of these more in detail, that's kind of the context of the range that we looked at. So Cambridge Mobile Telematics, what they do is they have users opt in. So this is insurance company based, where like the Good Driver type programs, the users opt in. There's either on their smartphone, or some of the older ones have the plugins in your car, and it tracks your movement. So your telematics, the acceleration on your phone, the acceleration of the vehicle, the hard braking, the quick acceleration, those types of things. And Cambridge Mobile Telematics on their smartphone apps also knows when the phone is unlocked, so that the screen is probably showing something, most likely navigation. But it also knows when the phone is being moved because of the accelerometer, and it also knows when it's being touched. So it doesn't necessarily know that the driver is touching it, but it knows that the registered user's phone is being moved or interacted with. That kind of gets into the driver's safety, and specifically we like to call this that it's the phone distraction, rather than other distractions that could be going on in the car. So they report theirs at the segment or the hex grid level, and they have back for a couple years of worth of data nationally. In the Baltimore region, they have back to early 2024. So if you wanted to do before and after in that time frame, it's available. And then they're also moving forward in time. So they have a really nice dashboard. It's very intuitive. Prior presentations showed the screen captures, but they're looking at do you want to look at the state level, the county level, the city level, census tracts, roadway segments, intersections, kind of filtering by geography. And then based on the geography, do you want to look at hard braking? Do you want to look at quick acceleration, sharp turning, speed ranges, before and afters, those types of things. I think that, yes, so that's Cambridge Mobile Telematics. So this is the only one in this category that has the driver, opt-in from an insurance company. Yeah, and we can go on to the next one. And then the INRIX, and let me just check the chat. Okay, thanks. INRIX is one of the 2 that look at the vehicle telematics that comes from the vehicle connected vehicles mostly. They also do integrate with the infrastructure, but what they're looking at is speed, congestion, speed ranges, speed differentials. Right? So it's much more an operational focus, which is their primary outcome. But they look at the influence of that on safety. So are they, speed differentials on roads, exceeding the speed limit, those types of things are what they have. They also can bring in the hard braking and quick acceleration. So we want to move on to Iteris. Iteris has similar things to INRIX, but where they're unique is that they also look at the timing of the signals. So are vehicles arriving on green? Are they arriving on yellow or red? Is there probably red light running? So how does the signal operations influence driver behavior in terms of their willingness to take a risk and continue? And then also, are they running red lights? Those types of things inferred from their combination of telematics data and also signal timing, and then platooning and other types of things like that. So they're also roadway based, looking at before and after, and both INRIX and ITERIS go pretty far back in time. Then if we want to move to the bigger picture, kind of the planning, Streetlight, which maybe some of you have heard of, they use vehicle telematics data from connected vehicles and also location-based services on your phone to try to get at person movement, not just vehicles. They aggregate also to the roadway segment level, but they can aggregate to an area level. One of the unique features of the Streetlight data are that you can identify the anonymized trips that travel over roadway segments, travel between areas. So if you're looking at, are the residents of an area driving on certain roadways versus visitors or cut through traffic, Streetlight is one of the few that you can look at the behavior relating to the type of person that they are, not just the speeds. So if you wanted to do traffic calming or those types of things, this is a data source that's often used. Then if we would go to the last one that's in kind of the broader planning, Urban SDK, they have underlying data sets that include roadway assets. You do have one Maryland, one Centerline, but maybe it's not maintained for all the local small streets. Urban SDK could help with that. They have speed limits. They also aggregate similar sources to the other providers of speed differential, drawing custom areas around school zones to see is the speeding in school areas on weekdays when school's in session different than weekends. There's different types of geographically based. They also have ways of customizing the report to say, when a certain criteria is met, email me so we can proactively take action. And I think that I'll hand it back to Nicole.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike and Celia. So yeah, what's next? Like I said, we only have 1 month left on the project. We've already started drafting the final report with all the information we just shared with you today. So we plan to finish that. And then we had a really great conversation with the steering committee 2 weeks ago on the role BMC could play and possibly procuring some data, providing training on data or other options. And so that will also be part of our final recommendations is what role can BMC facilitate in bringing this data to the local governments. So with that, we'll end there. Cindy Birch has been our project manager on the BMC side for this. Cindy, I don't know if you want to add anything, but we will also take questions.
Thanks, everyone. I did just want to add something. Good morning, Tech Committee. I'm actually at a traffic records conference at the moment and hearing a lot about a lot of these vendors and what other states and jurisdictions and cities and everybody are using as far as their safety planning. And one thing Mike didn't touch on that I will share for you though is it's such a fast moving field. Things with whether it's their data sharing, their data capture, he really got that across to us throughout the whole project. And I'm seeing it here with states coming back a year later and how much things have changed. One thing you didn't see were cost estimates because they're so variable depending on how many licenses, what features you want, things like that. So really, I think our next steps are to talk about this within the tech committee and maybe within the board, see if it's something we want to look into, see if we can get hands-on pilot phases with any of them, see if we can reach out and get any cost estimates from any of them if they fit within the wheelhouse of what we may want regionally. We do have partners at State Highway and in the Maryland Highway Safety Office that are also being pursued by these vendors and are very much looking into them. I will say by most recent discussion, they've had some discussions with Cambridge Mobile Telematics. I don't know where that stands or what their plans are as far as that, but if there is a state level procurement, maybe we can work within that as well. So there are several things on the table. I guess we're handing over to you guys and then back up to the board. So thanks for letting us take time today to talk about it.
Thank you, everyone. Are there any questions or comments on the presentation? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to Charlene, and she will present the new branding and wayfinding system for the Patapsco Regional Greenway. Charlene?
Great, thank you so much. Thanks for having me this morning. So you can go on the next slide. In 2017, the BRTB approved the plan for the PRG, which is envisioned as a 40-mile trail running through the Patapsco Valley from Sykesville and Carroll County down to Baltimore's Inner Harbor. So today, over 18 miles of the PRG are already constructed and open for use, and other segments are currently in the design phase, which includes segments that the BRTB has led 30% design of in partnership with member jurisdictions. Next slide. In 2025, on behalf of the BRTB, BMC and local and state partners began developing a cohesive wayfinding system for the PRG. Because the PRG spans multiple jurisdictions, trail types, and user experiences, a cohesive graphic identity and wayfinding system is essential to creating a seamless user experience and establishing the PRG as a recognizable regional resource. So as new segments are built by different agencies, users should experience a consistent look and feel, easy navigation, clear information on destinations and trail connections, improve safety and emergency response, and a recognizable regional brand. So this guideline manual provides a framework that agencies can implement while maintaining local ownership of their facilities. So next slide. The goal of the guidelines was to create a framework that integrates local, regional, state, and national branding guidelines while providing practical guidance for agencies responsible for implementing and maintaining the Greenway. So a coordinated wayfinding system, as we talked about, helps users navigate the network with confidence by communicating trail rules and permitted uses, guiding users through trail and roadway connections, promoting destinations and regional trail links, and supporting emergency response through consistent location identification. And the system also strengthens the visibility and identity of the PRG, encouraging more people to explore the trail network and the communities that it connects. So with the big project goals, we're creating a unified PRG brand, developing wayfinding standards, developing standard sign types, guidance for sign placement, design standards for maps and other graphics, and then implementation and maintenance recommendations. So next slide. The visual identity of the PRG was inspired by the natural and cultural landscapes that define the corridor. So through stakeholder engagement and surveys, project partners expressed a strong preference for a design approach rooted in the region's natural character, including the Patapsco River, surrounding forests, waterfalls, and native flora. Building on this feedback, the consultant team developed a branding design that incorporates the colors, forms, and graphic elements that reflect the Greenway's diverse environments and the palette draws inspiration from the river, wooded landscapes, seasonal vegetation, while the sign forms and graphic details are informed by the flowing movement of water and the interconnected nature of the trail network. References to the corridor's historic bridges and infrastructure further reinforces the PRG's unique sense of place. So next slide. One of the big parts of the project was developing a logo for the PRG, and it's important to have a versatile logo that can accommodate a range of applications. So to account for this, a number of logo formats and color options have been created. Let's see, great. Next slide. The sign family includes both trail signs, including trailhead, trail identification, decision signs, mile markers, and ground markings, and on-road signs, including street decision, street confirmation, street and trail name, and other ground markings. Next slide. So here's some of the sign family. The signs, particularly the on-road signs, have been designed in accordance with the community wayfinding section of the MUTCD, which allows for customization of guide signs within a defined geographic area. And the coordination of branding across the on-road and off-road signage helps to establish the consistency of the brand that users will be able to rely on for guidance. Next slide. So the guidelines are based on 4 key principles, which includes being consistent. So wayfinding signs should be predictable. Sign frequency and placement should establish a regular rhythm so users know what to expect and to develop confidence in the system. So next is keeping it simple, so making it easy to use and intuitive, which helps travelers navigate and understand where they are in relation to nearby landmarks and destinations. And information should be clear, legible, and simple enough to be understood by a wide audience. The next is being inclusive. So signs, oh, sorry, stay on that slide. Signs should consider the needs of people with vision disabilities or limited English proficiency. These sort of signs that include those groups benefit everybody. So by using large text with highly legible fonts and high contrast color pairings, we can accommodate people traveling at higher speeds, like on a bike, or visibility in inclement weather. And then designing for the inexperienced user is one of the other guidelines. So wayfinding should be designed for people who may be unfamiliar with the area. Since almost any system can be learned through repeated use, it's the first time users that rely on wayfinding signage. Next slide. And sign placement plays a key role in the effectiveness of the wayfinding system, as users depend on consistent placement of wayfinding signs to be able to learn how to use the wayfinding system. The manual provides guidance on sign placing, including selecting the appropriate sign type, consistent sign placement, sign spacing, co-location with existing signs, map orientation, and reducing sign clutter. And on the next slide, you will see a decision matrix. So this flowchart helps guide decision-making about which sign types to use based on the information needs of the specific location. So it's a useful way to kind of help think through which signs would be best for that area. So next slide. Well, the benefits of the regional system is it will help improve navigation, creating a consistent user experience, strengthening the PRG identity, promoting regional destinations, and supporting tourism and recreation while improving emergency location referencing and making future trail expansions easier to integrate. Next slide. Given the multi-agency nature of the PRG, wayfinding improvements are anticipated to be procured and implemented by individual agencies within their respective jurisdictions. And as the PRG continues to grow through the planning, design, and construction of new trail segments, the network will evolve to serve new communities, destinations, and user needs. And in that way, the PRG graphic identity and sign guidelines manual are intended to evolve alongside the Greenway. So as new conditions, technologies, or implementation opportunities emerge, partner agencies can refine and expand this guidance to address future use cases while maintaining a cohesive identity and consistent wayfinding experience across the regional network. And that's all I have today.
Thank you, Charlene. Are there any questions regarding her presentation?
This is Albert from MTA. Just a couple questions. So one, is there going to be like a full manual and standards and stuff they're going to be coming out that we can share with our designers and things like that?
Yes. Yep. So we have a PDF document that includes all that I gave a lot more detailed information than what I talked about today, but yeah, we're going to get that shared with our partners and we can send that out to you all. And then we're going to, I believe, work to get that posted on the BMC website so that people can access that easily.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
I was wondering if you have anything like this going on for any other trail or greenway projects or proposals?
So I would think the closest that we have is for the Baltimore Greenway Trail Network, but that was more design standards instead of wayfinding. I think the Gwynns Falls Trail in the city has some wayfinding and sign guidance, but those are the only projects I'm aware of in the region, but always open to hear about more.
Anything else? All right, thank you, Charlene. Next, we'll have Zach provide an update on Region Next 2055. Zach?
Yes, good morning, everyone. So I don't have a lot for you today. I want to thank you all again for your submissions for Region Next 2055. We, as a staff, continue to review the submissions. We do expect some minor changes, maybe a few additional projects, but roughly we've received about 83 projects. Those breakdowns: 44 roadway, 30 transit projects, and then the new category, we received 19 active transportation projects that we're evaluating. So that's great. BMC staff are also working on finalizing project maps that we'll be able to share. Cost estimation is moving forward. I've shared project information with MTA and SHA. We'll also be able to share maps and a spreadsheet of project information for ease of evaluating projects. That should come soon, likely this week. Technical project scoring continues this month into September. And then I also wanted to note that in response to public comment on the last LRTP, we got a lot of comments encouraging us to show the draft project list prior to the draft document being released. At that point, there's less time to evaluate projects. So we are planning to post a list of submitted projects on our website this month, so folks can look at the projects that were submitted and being evaluated. And next, I think Todd is going to take over here and talk a little bit about multi-jurisdictional project treatment.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Zach. So we've been discussing these multi-jurisdictional projects with several of the members and agencies. And what we're proposing is the option for BMC to act as a sponsor agency when multiple jurisdictions or agencies kind of come together and propose a single project that crosses different boundaries. We would propose this, having the same rights to scoring as any other agency or jurisdiction. So we're exploring this for projects very similar to the Patapsco Regional Greenway. With that, I guess I'm going to ask and just see if any member has an issue or objection with this proposal. Please speak up now. Hearing none, we do appreciate the consideration of the technical committee. I'll turn it back to Zach to wrap it up.
Okay, well, that's actually all I had for you. We'll continue moving forward with scoring. That's the big task right now for staff. And we should be able to discuss a draft project list sometime in the fall.
Thanks, Zach. Moving on to other business. The next technical committee meeting will be virtual on Tuesday, September 1st. Is there any other business to come before the committee today?
Yes, Ms. Chair, this is Dan Janasek with MDOT. I have some other business to bring to the committee today.
Okay.
So we'd like to share some information for the Dundalk Marine Terminal Resiliency Flood Mitigation Project that's currently in the TIP. There is a need to add additional STBG funds at this time for the discovery of hazardous materials. And what we really want to do, though, is put more protect funding towards this project. This is TIP ID 30-2101-82. MDOT added $17 million in protect funding earlier this year. The total cost at that time is $71.5 million. We're trying to identify the protect funds to add to this project into the current tip of record. So while we're waiting on approval for the 27 tip, we still have the 26 tip, which is tip of record. And so if we get identified in the next day or two, we'll be able to do one amendment and just add approximately, we're thinking around $42 million in protect funding to this project to take care of the hazardous materials. And then once we've, if we don't identify it real quickly, we want to use STBG flex funding to get the number in there in the tip and get this project amended. But we realize because of the timing of the approval of the new tip, we need to do this really quickly. We simply don't have enough funds to cover the change order to take care of these hazardous materials. And so the protect funding sort of fits it perfectly. We've had some spent a lot of work to try to find areas to use protect funding with the rules and how that can be used, but we think this would be a good project to do that. So we would recommend, well, we have an executive committee meeting Friday, and so we would like to have an amendment completed by the executive committee. The BRTB rules indicate that the tech committee will review all amendments to the tip. So we are asking sort of a waiver of this. If anybody has an issue with this, if you could raise that now, that would help us get this accomplished this week so that we could obligate that protect funding to use it on this important project for the Dundalk Marine Terminal Resiliency Project. So if we do add the STBG funding this week, we would come back and do a modification, which would also go to the executive committee to switch that STBG flex over to protect funding. But in the case that we do identify the protect funding this week, we would add 42 million to protect right now. So it's either 42 STBG and then protect, or go ahead and do the amendment just once and get the protect funding done. Just want to see if anybody has any issues, and thank you for your consideration. Okay, hearing none, then we will work with the executive committee for this amendment to the tip of record. And of course, this would then end up being a STIP amendment, and we can share that with everyone here. So everybody sees the paperwork behind it, which is, the standard letter from TSO and the STIP form to adjust the statewide transportation improvement program. All right, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Dan. Is any other business to come before the committee? Hearing no further business, I ask for a motion and a second to close the business meeting.
Ms. MDOT will make a motion to close the business meeting.
Thank you, Dan from MDOT.
Harford County will second.
Thank you, Sam from Harford County.